In this video, we're going to make a more complex Flask app. This one will keep track of assignment scores and exam scores and so forth. So let's start by making, I'll just call it main. So these are the things I had before. Keep track of my assignments is my goal, and my home page will be as follows. Oops, it's not quotes. So if the special variable known as underscore name is equal to this value, we know that we're starting the app from the command line. So we want to run the app. I'm going to need a template called home. So I'm going to make a folder called templates. And make a file called home.html. I'm going to go to Git Bootstrap, get the starting template, starter template here, copy all this. There's my template. It just has the hello world in it. Let's make sure that runs. So there's our page. Now I want to keep track of my assignments, meaning I'll have a variable up here, maybe called assignments, and I want it to be a list, and I want to just know the assignment name and the score. So I'm going to make a little dictionary because that will help simplify things later in my template. And that means each element will be like this little dictionary. So we'll say name of the assignment, and then that, and then score will be something like that. We'll put 2 in here at first. So this is our data set. It's not going to come from a file or DynamoDB or anything like that. It'll just be in the code like this. And I will add to it as the program is running, but it's not really much of a database. So now the thing is, I want to actually show that list on the front page. So I'm going to pass in the variable, and in the template, I'm calling it this. The actual variable name is this. Same thing, but they could be different. So in the template, I need to go refer to assignments as that. So instead of hello world, I'm going to call it assignment tracker. That will be at the top here as well. And then I want to make a list of all the assignments. I could make a table, I guess. That'd be nice too. But I'll do more simply just a list. So lists, there's 2 kinds. There's ordered lists and unordered lists. Ordered lists have the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Unordered are just bullets. So I'll do unordered. And then each list element will look like this. But I want these to come from my data. I don't want to just type them in the file. So I need a little loop inside of my template. And let me see how that works real fast. Yeah, so these Flask templates support little bits of code inside of them if you start with the squiggle and then a %. So here I'll say for, and it's going to look like Python. So for assignment in assignments, and then whatever's inside, it doesn't have to be indented actually, whatever's inside will be the part that repeats. So the output will have repeats of whatever I type in the middle of the for. And then you close off the for like that. So each element in the for loop will be an li element, a list item, and I want to grab assignment, so that's this variable, and I want to get the name, so I'll say, just like I would in Python, put a colon, and then close off the list item. So this for loop is going through each of these things because I passed in this here, called it this in the template, which is this, and I'm looping through each of them. So I'm getting access to every one of these individual items. And since it's a dictionary itself, I need to grab the various parts out of it that I want to display. Use of the keys. Then I got to close off my unordered list. So there's my unordered list, which are bullets, showing the data from the Python file. As I add to this variable, I'll just refresh and the extra stuff will be here. So next I want a form on this page that lets the user add data to that variable. So I need to make a form. Let's make a form under the list of assignments. So forms in Bootstrap, if you do them right, they can look nice. Click the form section on their documentation, and first of all, actually we have to set up the form like this. But since Bootstrap is concerned about style, they're not actually saying how the form behaves. So let's put the code that we're going to need. Form, and then you need to say method. We want to use a post. So a post method is where it's sending the data to the application, but you don't see the data being sent. If you use get, which is the alternative, all the data will be sent up here, and you can see everything the user submitted. So that's usually a problem if you're like sending passwords and things. So we don't want the data being sent up here in the address. That would be a get kind of form. So mostly forms are post, almost universally. And the action is what it's known as. What's the address to send the data to? And of course, we'll have to define that up top here. So the action will be add assignment. Just make that up. I'm going to close off the form real fast, and then come up here and say this is the route add assignment. Now the thing about forms and Flask is if it's going to assume get for everything in the app.route. So if it's not a get, it's a post, you need to actually tell it post is what we're talking about, and only post. I don't want anyone getting to this page if it's not through a form. Then, make sure I got the code right here. I'll have to check on that in a second. It's delayed. Then you define, I'll call it the same thing, add assignment. And I'll do something here. So let's build the form. And I want this to be just, I want an input box, like a regular box where you type something, and then a thing that's a number. So I'm going to go to form controls. I want just a normal box like this. And yeah, so basically it's just like, I guess just one of these. We'll say, where's my example? Label. And to make it nice, you'll use a label and you make an ID for your input box. So I'll call it assignment name. So this is the label for the assignment name box, which I'm going to create in a second. And class is how you use the Bootstrap styling. So use their form label style. So assignment name, that'll be the label. Then you follow it with the actual form element, the input. Type will be text, not email. Class is form control. And ID, I need to match what I called it above in the for. And you can use a placeholder, it looks kind of nice. That's what appears before you start typing. And that's all we need. Let's just see what that looks like. Oh, I have some sort. Oh, yeah, this, I didn't finish the function here, so I can't run it. So let's put a pass. In other words, do nothing. Right, so I'm zoomed in here. Yeah, it's a very long box because it's using the whole space. So let's come over here and use the grid. Div class equals, I think it's container. Let's check. Layout grid. Yeah, class container. And div class row. Div class equals call. Go the full width. And indent all that stuff. And close off our column, close off our row, close off our container. So it's still long, but that's because I said still 12 columns, but it's okay. Actually, I'll do left to right form. So I'll put two things on the same row. So the way I can do that, let's do it like, I think they have horizontal forms as an example. Layout. Form layout. Yeah, like this. So you do a little row and column for the form itself. So come over here. So the assignment name input will be in its own column. I'll do another column for the score that you're going to provide. And for that, I'll use a range. Maybe not. That looks kind of silly. What else do we have for inputs? Those are normal inputs. I guess range is what people would use. I thought there was another one, but let's just do a regular form. Yeah, so we'll just do another input. So I'll copy all this, rename it assignment score, form label, okay, assignment score, input type. Oh, this is there's a different input type I can use. We can do number. So let's see what the number example is. Yeah, min and max. Okay, so we'll say input type number, score, min equals 0, max equals 100. Close off the div, close off the row. So here's my two columns for the two form elements, the name of the assignment and the score. The name is a text input and the score is a number input. You'll see what that looks like if I close this, come back. Yeah, so the left or right. And this being a number input allows you to do this thing for what it's worth. But, you know, it'll prevent you from going over. And you can't even type letters. You can type numbers, I guess, but the min and max are for these buttons. But at least because it's a number, you can't type any letters. All right, so let's do the submission. We're going to need a button for that. Come in and just do an input type equals submit. Let's see what the style is supposed to look like. That kind of button. And, oh, so it's a button type submit class, blah, 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 blah. So we'll copy this. And submit. The word submit is fine. I can change this word if I want. We'll call it add assignment. So, well, it doesn't do anything yet, but there it is. There's actually a missing some space I kind of want there, so let's do div Flask equals row, div Flask equals call. Put it in its own little row. Oh, I thought that would add space. It doesn't add space, so let's just get rid of these two things I just added. And on the classes, you can add another thing, margin top, so space on the top, size 3. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so those are your choices. All right, so there's some space. All right, so when I click this, it's going to submit what I put in here. Let's handle that actual submission. And so what I had in my notes, but the notes disappeared because the server disappeared, is how to get that submission. So Python Flask form post data. That's what I want to know. Request.data. I think it's request.form. So let's just see how this goes. So I'm going to need to import request as well from Flask, because I'm going to use that variable. And I just want to see what's in the request. So if I come over here and type, let's refresh. Okay, that and that. Oh, well, that's where the min and max is used. So that's interesting. You can't submit. Okay, so there's nothing in form. Let's go to data. Go back and resubmit that. Data appears to be nothing. So let's check again. Request.form. Yeah, it should have been okay. So let's try this again. Let's get the value. Oh, you know what? I forgot to put the names of the variables or the keys that will go with these inputs. So I gave it an ID assignment name, but that's not really gonna be used by the Python code. I have to say name equal, and then I'll say name, and then name equal score. Let's go back and refresh this. So now you see, in fact, it is .form that has the data. So it wasn't until I put actual names on my HTML forms for the different inputs that it was actually passed to the code. So now I can say assignments, which is that list above, append a new one. Here's a new assignment. Its name is request.form key name, and its score is request.form score. So see how I made a little dictionary right here inside this append, and key value, which comes from the user. And then, so I've returned OK. I'll deal with that in a second. So it is actually adding the things I put in the form into the list of assignments. So if I come over here and put something and something, and then I go back to the home page, you'll see it's actually been recorded. So the only thing I need to do now is when I click this, it should send me back to the home page. So instead of return OK, I want to return redirect to the home page. And I got to import that. All right, so now, blah, 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 blah. See how I pop back to the home page? It's like that post request almost